You're listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard. Thank you so much for joining us again. We're going to be joined by returning guest, Dr. Jeremy Levin, Chairman and CEO of Ovid Therapeutics, Incorporated. He's a former chairman of the Global Biotechnology Innovation Organization as well. He's joining us to talk about the new COVID variant Delta Plus. Welcome back, Dr. Levin. Thank you for returning.
Thank you very much, Neil. It's a real pleasure to be here with you.
Give our listeners a brief look into your area of expertise. What is it that you love about what you do there at Ovid Therapeutics?
Well, I think the most important thing that I do, that from my perspective, is that I've always believed when you give a medicine to somebody, you change their lives. So whether you're treating somebody cancer, and in our case, rare diseases of the brain, the moment that pill passes from you, the manufacturer, the discoverer, to the patient, through the doctor to the patient, you change their life. And that means, for me, I've always felt this, that I have a covenant with the patient, absolute covenant, to make sure that I improve their life. And in Ovid, we're tackling the big questions of the brain. How do you actually cure diseases of the brain that have been left so far behind? The whole area of what's called neuroscience, how the brain works, is crashing open. Even during the time of COVID, fundamental discoveries have been made, and a lot of advances have been seen. So we're tackling the big problems. We're going to find, I'm confident, eventually we will find cures for many of these rare diseases with strange names. KIF1A, Angelman's, Fragile X. They will all fall to science for sure.
Now, you mentioned even during the time of COVID, I do remember hearing about swelling in the brain that was associated with COVID-19.
Yes, there's definitely evidence that occurs. All viruses have a way of attacking your body if they're the kind that attacks humans. There are many different other kinds. But when they do, they can sometimes attack just your lungs or your nose like a common cold. But certainly when you have COVID, we've experienced the most remarkable set of attacks by this virus, whether it be the lining of your veins, whether it be your lungs, your heart. But indeed, we do see swelling of the brain as well, sometimes due to inflammation on the lining of the brain from this virus.
This Delta variant of COVID-19 that we've all been hearing of and we're all trying to take steps against. Explain this variant, how it differs from the already highly contagious COVID-19.
Right. Well, let's talk about what happens with viruses, and then we'll walk down through the path. What's called the Alpha variant was the first of these. It basically mutated. The normal process of a virus is to mutate. And the Delta has shown that it's got a 40 to 60% increase in its ability to transmit from the original, most prevalent type, the Alpha type. What we then saw was you basically saw a change in the way that it could infect from one person to the next. And what that means is that it has the ability to spread incredibly fast. So much so that when it replicates, it overwhelms the body's ability of the immune system to fight it. Even sometimes when you've had the vaccination to boost your system, or if you've had some time ago previous COVID. So its ability to replicate, that means to multiply in your body, is far higher than the previous variants. And this is something which is not good.
If it multiplies that much more rapidly, why don't we just develop a vaccine to combat that specific variant? Or is it an astronomical task to try and pinpoint these variants that are obviously going to continue?
No, Neil. The beauty about the new types of vaccines are that these, what are called mRNA vaccines, that's what the Moderna has and what Pfizer has, is that within a matter of weeks, you can quickly assemble the tool that will allow you to build a new vaccine. And that vaccine can be produced in weeks, not months or years, as has happened now. It's remarkable that even in the first instance, the first time we've tried that, within 11 months from start to scratch, we had a vaccine. It won't be as fast. It won't be as slow as that next time round. So I'm confident that the mRNA vaccines, not the others, not necessarily those that are, for example, in the J&J vaccine, that needs to be demonstrated, or the AstraZeneca vaccine, or the Sputnik V vaccine. They're much slower in their ability to be manipulated, but they can as well. And I know that all of those companies are working so that they can respond to the variants. And just as you may recollect, Neil, the way that these vaccines work is they're targeted to that little red spike. Now, that spike changes shape every time you get a new variant. The mutation that you see in the one that is called Delta Plus, it's an additional mutation. It's got a reference number, K417N for Nicholas. It's in the virus spike protein, and that allows it to infect much more rapidly these healthy cells, but it also allows us to identify it, to build a vaccine against it. And we do know something very special about the current vaccines. The current mRNA vaccines are highly effective in preventing the Delta Plus from infecting when you've had a recent vaccination. Over time, your immunity diminishes, as with all vaccines, and at some stage you'll need to have a booster. But no matter what, it appears that those who are currently suffering the side effects of the COVID or dying, unfortunately, those are people who are not vaccinated, or they're people who have, those are the ones who are dying. Overwhelmingly, those who are dying are not those who are not vaccinated. And when you are there are very few admissions to hospital with those who've already been vaccinated. So the vaccination, no matter what, protects against the viruses, the current variants.
So we obviously know that people who are unvaccinated are at great risk. But those, as you said, who have had a recent vaccination or a vaccination in the past and may require a booster, what do these variants do to the vaccine in the body? I mean, at one point you have 93% effectiveness. Does it take it down even though you're already vaccinated?
It does. It gets it down to about, the approximate figure is 70%. But that's what the vaccine is doing. The vaccine, it's as if you're running low on ammunition. That's all. You need to recharge your ammo box. And that's essentially what's going on. The bullets will work. You just have to have more of them at the right time. So the vaccine is like that. The vaccine is a bullet against the virus, and you're running short on ammo. It's as simple as that. What happens is that it's not as if you need a new kind of ammo, a new type of weapon to fight the vaccine. You've got the right one. It's just that you've run out of it. And it will come back if you are vaccinated. It's clear that if you are revaccinated, as happens with many other vaccines, you get a very good response. Neil, but may I say something if it's okay to you?
Absolutely.
I think it's not just those who are getting struck down by COVID-19, by Delta today. It's not just them that are suffering. Not at all. What they have done by not taking the vaccine is, unfortunately, they've let the virus run rampant. And by running rampant, they've allowed it to mutate. So they now start to threaten all the rest of us. So I do think that it's critical for people not to think just about their own safety, but their neighbors, their children, their community, when they choose not to be vaccinated, because they are essentially providing a safe haven for the virus to mutate. And by doing so, they have essentially allowed the whole of the pandemic to continue. So it's a little different from just, well, I don't need it for myself and I'm worried about it and I don't want to take it. They need to think about what they're doing to the community.
Well, Doctor, always a pleasure speaking with you. Lots of great information. Give us a website where we can learn more about Ovid Therapeutics, if you would.
Oh, with great pleasure. The Ovid website is OvidRx, OVIDRX.com. And OvidRx.com will tell you all about diseases of the brain that we're tackling and our bold approach to medicine and our hope that we'll find medicines that cure these rare diseases of the brain.
Absolutely. Doctor, always a pleasure. As I said, thank you so much for returning, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation.
Neil, a real pleasure, and thank you for what you're doing. It's important to educate everybody.
You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard, in conversation with returning guest Dr. Jeremy Levin. Audio copies of this program are available at hpr.fm and healthprofessionalradio.com.au. You can also subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. Listen in, download at SoundCloud, and be sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com, Health Professional Radio.